This is Nathaniel Garrett Novosel, author of The Meaning of Life. This vlog is titled The Unified Theory of Meaning. And we're going to talk a little bit today about how all philosophies and belief systems actually have some of the same underlying core components. This vlog starts with one interesting fundamental question. What if everyone is right? Now, as a gullible person with autism spectrum disorder, I often listened to whatever I was told as a child. I've never done drugs or smoked. I followed all the rules. I got good grades. I adopted the beliefs and advice of adults around me. Even those little crazy conspiracy theories like the ones about how brake pads exist that never go down and you can have them forever, and it's only, the big bad patent trolls or whatever, or not trolls, but patent big companies, holding them back so that you have to buy new ones or whatever. Okay. Yeah, I did that. Anyway, as a result, arguments over politics, religion, philosophy, and human behavior fascinated me because I couldn't tell if anyone was lying, so I assumed that they all at least believed what they were saying. Now, maybe I was misled a lot, but it was very interesting because unlike most people where they're trying to discern or look critically and trying to poke holes in things that disagrees with their beliefs, me, every time I read a new thing, every time I see someone say something new, I assume they're right until overwhelming evidence proves them wrong. And if there are things that conflict, I just assume that they're both right and there's some nuance to it or whatever. Now, sure, I switched belief systems over time as I was looking for what I could prove to be true, as well as which beliefs would serve my life best. But the two most interesting things that I started to notice is that, first of all belief systems had at least some truth to them. And secondly, almost all belief systems had common themes about what they would cover and recommend. I started to think about the blind men and the elephant parable, where people analyzing different parts of an elephant would agree and disagree over the nature of the whole. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that parable, it's, and we can go with blindfolded if you prefer, but so people blindfolded, they're touching different parts of the elephant. The one touches the trunk and goes, "Oh, this is a tree." The trunk, the leg, and says, "Oh, this is a tree." Tree trunk is what I was thinking of. The other one touches the trunk and goes, "Oh, this is a snake," and so on and so on. One touches the tail and go, "Oh, something else," right? Because they don't have the whole picture, but they're all, accurate as to what they're directly sensing. So, if that's the case, if I'm applying this to meaning, is it then possible, I was asking myself, for everyone to be right and we could just unify beliefs around a common language or way of thinking about it? And that's where my analysis of what I would call the unified theory of meaning would begin. Here's an abridged reenactment of the thought process through which this theory would come together. Insert dramatic music and so forth. I started breaking down different beliefs, their teachings, and their unified concepts. The obvious one for why anyone does anything is desire, which drives people to action. So that was fundamental. That was probably where I started if I had to pick one of the concepts. Different religions and schools of thoughts will debate as to good and bad desires, such as addictions and perverse wants, but they all agree that that what you want, you will ultimately try to get until you either get it or find another want to replace it. The other obvious common theme is belief, as every belief system, by definition, believes in something. Even skeptics who only believe what they can prove. And so desire and belief were the two ones that I had identified are core components to meaning in life. And then finally, all belief systems give you recommendations or rules for how to live your life, which people commonly call these days ethics. So those items are clearly universal themes as to what is necessary to find meaning. So those are three, right? But if those concepts just help you to find your meaning, what is the ultimate point? Because none of those gives you a point, right? Desire, belief, ethics, not giving you the whole point, right? The recommendations are all over the place. The meaning of life is to be happy, it's to serve others, it's to love, it's to live life to the fullest, it's to worship God, it's to win or accomplish the most, there's the opposite of that, like he who dies with the most toys still dies. But those are very different takes on meaning. So how could they all be true? What on earth could possibly unify them? Well, it all becomes clear when you think about those meanings. Once you do them, do you stop? So once you're happy, do you live happily ever after? That's the fairy tale ending, right? But do you stop being happy? Yeah, of course you do. You don't feel happy all the time. Okay. So, if you help someone, are you done? You just, okay, I helped someone, I'm done. I've won. I won at life because I helped feed someone at a soup kitchen. Yay, go me. I mean, do you help one person feel good about yourself and never help anyone again? No. You set out to help more people. So let's take love. If you love someone, do you hug them and then abandon them because you now love them? No. You learn to love them more and more and grow that bond into a family or a lifetime of shared experiences. So, interesting. It's all about doing more, expanding, or continuing. How are you able to do more? You get better. What's the word in life for being more or better tomorrow than you are today? Growth. You grow physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and socially. You develop your relationships. Every part of your life that has meaning involved or required some sort of growth or development. If you raise children, it's so they grow. When you work, you grow both your skills and your finances. Growth is the underlying theme for all commonly stated meanings in life. If you serve others, it's to help them grow. If you love, it's either to love more people, have new relationships, to develop those relationships, or it's for an outcome, right? So reproduction, for example, or safety, or sense of belonging, community, for greater resources together than if you were apart. And so that your lives can be better as a result of those relationships. But could this be the answer? The large and ever-growing, pun intended, personal growth section of the bookstore would seem to indicate that it's true. Remember, they switched it from self-help to personal growth, and that is a big deal, even though it just seems like they just wrote a synonym. So, growth is the answer, and everybody agrees that desire and belief are important to your life and that you should live ethically to be a good member of the community. So, that's 4. But what's missing, and how do all these fit together into some sort of coherent system? So switching from evaluating belief systems to using logic and science to connect the dots, we can then find an answer. So, the meaning of life is to grow. Then how do you grow? Well, all growth involves some sort of action in the real world by the living thing to become more after the action than it was before the action. What's that called? Well, if you've ever filled out a resume in your life, you know the answer. Experience. Experience is the medium through which growth occurs. That connects the first 4 concepts. You grow through experience, your desire drives you to have those experiences, and your beliefs determine whether you follow through or give up. So finally, we're making some good progress here. We've got 5. Meaning of life is growth, growth through experience, desire, drives you, belief sustains you, and then ethics are the best way to have those experiences to achieve your goal. But we're not done yet, because that's only 5. The big question is, how do you know you're growing in the right way? After all, you can become the best tree climber on the planet, but that doesn't necessarily mean you'll be fulfilled by doing it. Wait a second. Feeling fulfilled. Feeling. Is this where happiness comes into play? A lot of people think the meaning of life is to be happy. That is technically incorrect. It's like if you said the meaning of or point of going to school is to get an A. I mean, it might sound right, but no, the point of going to school is to learn. The A tells you that or indicates that you have learned. Similarly, the point of life is growth. Happiness is your A. Happiness is the emotional response, the indicator that says you have grown successfully. Again, we're talking about happiness in terms of fulfillment, not in terms of pleasure. So disregard things like drug use and ways to hack your brain. That's the equivalent of cheating to get an A in school. So if happiness is not the point and growth is, then how does it fit in? Well, as I just said, emotions such as happiness are indicators that you're growing. Healthy, thriving people are generally happy unless something threatens that growth, at which point they might become stressed, angry, or afraid. Okay, so there we are. I think we've got 6 now. Growth, experience, desire, belief, emotions, ethics. So let's just revisit ethics real fast because it makes sense to insert it here, because if you do something that makes you happy but harms someone else, obviously it's not good because you're inhibiting their growth and risking them inhibiting yours in retaliation. Now, I know a lot of people think there's like some sort of intrinsic ethics that everyone should follow, and granted, there are biological ethics like fairness, reciprocity, and minimal harm. Those are ethics that are in your genetics, because as social species, if we don't do those things or have those ethics, we cannot live with trust and cooperation with other human beings. So you need to have those. But in terms of some sort of ethics, I know people are trying to scientifically derive anything that causes pain is therefore bad and harm is bad, but anyone who's gotten surgery and it's been painful knows that pain and harm is not necessarily an indicator of unethical behavior, because if they're amputating your arm because it's going to kill you, then you're better off even though you're harmed. So it's not a clear-cut thing of harm and so forth. Although in general, obviously you shouldn't harm people, but ethics aren't these magical universal things. What you want to do is make sure that you identify and define rules that you can all follow, and then you want to identify, if you're growing, the way to get there best to optimize or maximize your growth without hurting other people, that allows you to live in society peacefully, which is what we mean by doing it the right way. Okay, so you're doing all that, you're growing. How can you optimize or maximize your growth? Well, you can get help. You could cooperate with others, not just by following the same rules as we mentioned with ethics to avoid hurting people, but you can actually help them. What's that called? Well, in the book, I call it support. You can call it cooperation, you can call it helping others, call it whatever you want. But I call it support because it's one word. But why support, not help? Your ladder supports your weight as you climb to a higher height, and people support you to succeed at your job or school. So non-living things can help you as well. You can be supported by finances, you can be supported by resources, you can be supported by food, all kinds of things can support you. But, obviously people are what we're talking about in terms of cooperation, living things, helping other living things, living cooperation, harmony to achieve more than you would have otherwise. But tools and other resources count as well. So that's 7. So anything left? And I got to be honest with you, I was actually pointing my writing. I had 7. I thought it was good. But what else do we need? Well, I've been assuming the whole time as I've gone through this that people would automatically grow like cells do, right? So, your cells just, automatically split in 2, and that's how you grow, and blah, blah, blah. They automatically go and search for food and all the other fun stuff. And yeah, that works for a long time until you get to more conscious organisms like humans. So people don't work in the way that, say, like a single-celled organism does with in terms of just kind of automatically just performing those functions for no rhyme or reason. Humans can be motivated. They believe they can do something, and they could still not experience or have the experience that they need to grow. So what's left? What's missing? Well, they have to choose to take the action. Choice. That's the ultimate capability, because not only do you choose which growth areas you pursue, but you also choose pretty much anything. You can choose whether you want something or not, right? You can choose what to believe. You can choose what ethics you hold. You can choose to be happy. You can choose to ignore things that don't make you happy and choose to focus only on things that make you happy, and you could live a happier life. You could stop watching the news and talking about people killing each other all the time. You'll probably be happier. That's a choice. So you ultimately choose pretty much everything, whether you associate with people and get support. Every single of those other items involve choices. So you choose whether you have meaning or not. And yeah, that's pretty meta. I get it. So those 8 concepts are what you need to have meaning. How do they all come together? Well, let's reorganize that into one story. The meaning of life is growth. Life grows through experience. It is guided to certain experiences through its desires, and it determines whether to continue pursuing those experiences based on its beliefs. Its emotions tell it whether it's growing or not. It then has to cooperate with other organisms for optimal growth, so it follows ethics to live in harmony and reciprocates support to grow more together than individually. Ultimately, life chooses what to do with its life and chooses what its meaning is after considering those factors. So, if a person chooses a set of experiences that he or she wants and believes will lead to growth and fulfillment and cooperates with others in that pursuit, he or she will find meaning. And I use the it pronoun for life because actually other organisms follow more rudimentary versions of those as well, which we won't talk about here, or this will last forever. So that's it. That's the unified theory for the meaning of life. Every belief system is compatible. If you are a devout Christian and wish to glorify God, then your growth is spiritual, your desires and ethics are to follow God's teachings, your beliefs are what the Bible says, you receive support from God and God's creations to achieve that goal, and you'll choose to experience church attendance, prayer, and other religious activities to achieve that growth. As a result, you'll feel pious, you'll feel one with God, you'll feel spiritual, you'll feel fantastic. On the other side of the spectrum, religiously, if you're an atheist family man, then you'll want your children to grow, believe in their potential, choose to experience teaching them ethics and supporting them through their struggles, and you'll feel fulfilled in helping them realize their dreams. 2 completely different worldviews about how the world was created and whether there's anything beyond this universe and so forth. But they are both compatible with the same underlying theory of meaning. Hopefully you have the same mind blown as I did when I came to that conclusion, but if not, that's okay. I am easily amused and amazed. So that unified theory of meaning is born. The last thing to do is then test for where it wouldn't apply. What about people who want bad things? What about addictions that make you feel good but aren't conducive to growth? What about people in prison who can't make their own choices or grow in most ways? Do these undermine the theory? And I hope you skeptics out there are appreciating that I went about asking the hard questions to try to prove my ideas false, because it's not proving that they're right, it's proving that they're not wrong. And I tested all of those questions, and the answer is no, they don't blow up the unified theory of meaning. People who want bad things either have a problem with their brains, which was outside the scope of the book that I wrote about talking about people with abnormal behaviors and so forth, because we have to stick with the normal healthy living organisms for most people to help them understand how those normal healthy living organisms work. But psychopaths and so forth, out of the scope of this for the sake of that, because everything has exceptions to it, right? That prove the rules, so to speak. Because if you're a psychopath, for example, your emotions, your empathy, and other things. If you're a sociopath or psychopath, those things are broken, right? So yeah, if your emotional mechanisms and empathy and those sorts of things are broken, then you're not going to see the way in the same way that other folks do. So I mean, that's an example of what is broken. And I go through those examples in the book. But otherwise, if you want bad things, you either have a problem with your brain and this is something chemically wrong, or you actually want good things and just believe that the bad act is necessary to achieve the goal. If anything, though, the mental disorders prove that these concepts help you to maximize growth and find meaning, since it's more difficult to, say, live cooperatively in society if you lack a sense of ethics, i.e. if you're a sociopath, right? Bad actions just prove that you also need belief and ethics, or your desires will be to do bad things. Otherwise, you'd find other ways to get what you want, right? So believe me, if there's an easier approach to making money than stealing, then you would probably do that, right? So that's why people steal. They don't care if they hurt someone else, or they'll tell themselves they're not hurting someone else. And it's easier than working an 8-hour day at a job. So they end up doing it, unfortunately. So that just shows that people want good things like income or pleasure or whatever, and it's just the beliefs and the ethics that cause you to do bad things. Or again, you have something wrong psychologically, maybe you were abused, or maybe there's a chemical imbalance or something like that, and that's what causes that. But it's not due to some sort of that doesn't mean that the desire, belief, and so forth aren't necessary for meaning. It doesn't disprove it in any way. Now let's go to addictions. Addictions are what you might call brain hacks, right? Effectively getting the neurochemical rewards from the growth-enabling activities, such as eating, drinking, mating, socializing, etc. But getting those in a way that where you're getting that in a way that wasn't intended by evolution, if you will. We'll use evolution as the point there. You can use God or whatever you'd like as well. But the reason why you evolved to have these capabilities is so that you reinforce your behaviors, right? Like if you didn't eat and died, then you wouldn't live. So your body gives you pleasurable feedback when you eat, so you do it. Otherwise, you wouldn't, and you would die. So you can trigger, you can hack that now that we live in a place where you can just go buy a ton of food from the store, overeat, and get fat, and then die of a heart attack or something. So you can hack your brain to do that, but that's not meaning. So just because you can hack something doesn't make it wrong. Just like you can kind of fake. I can pretend to be a doctor and be a complete quack. That doesn't mean that the medical profession is fake. Just means I'm pretending and I'm not really a doctor. So that's what you see here is that addictions are just brain hacks. Like they're just working the system, gaming your emotions. So yeah, just because you can game the system doesn't mean the system doesn't work when used appropriately to seek healthy growth. And then finally, let's take the prison example. Prison and other limitations also support the theory. Restrictions of these concepts limit growth potential in certain areas, definitely, no doubt. But you can also still grow under these conditions if you use what's available to you. So prisoners often, they pursue education, they read, they learn maybe a new language, maybe they take on a new religion or something like that, have a spiritual awakening, and maybe they conduct other growth activities despite not having the freedom to do anything they want. So their meaning and purpose, you can still find it under great restriction of your choice because you still have choices. They can't take your thoughts away. In modern societies, they usually give you enough freedom to choose how to focus your attention, like to read or whatever. Not everything's like Clockwork Orange, where they literally hold your eyelids open to stare at crazy stuff to see if they can rewire your brain. But yeah, so those seeming exceptions actually just support the unified theory more in proving that you need these things to be healthy and thriving. But it definitely exists that there are people who don't have all of those things. In fact, someone just asked me one time about a child, a baby. How do they have emotions if they don't have beliefs, right? Because you need desire, belief, and experience to have an emotional response. Well, what happens if you don't have beliefs? Because you're a newborn and you have no beliefs. Well, first of all, they do have desires because you need food and water and love and things like that. That's comes right out from birth. That's why they're crying. Is you got to stop them from crying. So you got to get all that stuff off them and feed them and so forth. So they have wants from minute one, and they have experiences from minute one. If they have no beliefs, then that part of the equation is zero, right? You can add plus zero, right? So you can have desire plus zero plus your experiences and still have emotional responses. In fact, you could technically have no desires and have an emotional response just purely based on the experience, right? That's a stimulus response. That's a classic, like if you got someone flick your ear, you'd try to bat them away because your experience would immediately cause that response. Although, again, arguably, your desires and beliefs would be there because you would want to not get flicked in the ear, and you would believe that was harmful. So the desire and belief would combine with the experience to cause that rapid response to try to get that person away. Because what if it was if you knew it was your wife and you actually liked that, you thought it was funny, then when they flicked your ear, you wouldn't go like that because you would know your desire and belief would tell you that no, actually it's my wonderful, wonderful life partner playing with me, and I'm glad she does it because because she's having fun and makes me happy. Her having fun makes me happy. So you might not have that reaction because of the desire and belief. But if you're a baby and you have no beliefs, it would be zero. That's fine. But you're gonna acquire beliefs real fast. So so that's not zero for long. But that's it. 8 concepts. Master them, and you'll find purpose in life. A unified theory of meaning. The ultimate answer to the ultimate question. An answer that all belief systems can agree on to an extent, even though they're likely to debate about how they apply and how people should use them. After all, if everyone believed the same thing, life would be pretty boring. More importantly, we have to believe that we need to believe what we need to believe to achieve our goals. With different goals, we need different beliefs. So, if you use these concepts to find what's right for you, remember to explain the concepts and how to find meaning if someone wants your help figuring these things out, unless they ask how you would approach their specific situation. Helping someone think through a problem themselves is a lot more useful in the long term than simply giving them an answer. Although if it's some sort of urgent thing, you of course should just give them an answer to immediately help them. But helping them think through themselves, it's a give someone a fish, teaching them a fish kind of situation. This is for meaning. If you're going to give them a fish, you tell them, hey, go run a mile and get healthy or something, or hey, follow me, I've got a business and you should support me. But again, notice how that kind of self-serving, or you put your beliefs in there if you just recommend what. But if you explain these 8 concepts, it will help them understand how to figure out the meaning for themselves. So if someone wants to feel more meaning and fulfillment in their lives, this is the formula to achieve that outcome. Thanks so much, and have a good day.